In this presentation, we will perform a bank reconciliation for the January personal accounts within QuickBooks. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info. We are on the home page. We currently have the open windows open. In order to open the open windows, we go to the view drop-down and select the open windows list. We're now going to go to the banking up top and we're going to reconcile. We're going to reconcile our bank statements. So banking and then reconcile. And we're going to reconcile the date of 01/31/20. That's January 31st, 2020. From this point forward, that should populate on its own. It'll just be the next month every time. So we're going to start here with this zero balance. If we go back to our checking account, we'll note that we don't have a zero balance here. We've got 3,210. That's okay because we entered the 3,210 into the system. So the first time we reconcile, because of the way we set this up, we're going to have to check that off as if it happened during the month. And then every time period after that, it'll show up as the beginning balance. It will be good rolling forward. That's kind of the trade-off we have to use this method that we had when we entered the beginning balance, rather than using the QuickBooks system, which would have then given us the beginning balance if we entered the beginning balance into the checking account as we set it up. But then we'd have to deal with this other account that QuickBooks would have made up. So there's kind of a trade-off between those two methods. So the way we have entered the beginning balance, we don't have to deal with a duplicate account, but we have to check off the beginning balance in the activity for the first month of operations. And then we'll just go through here and check off all this information. We are on a cash basis method, so everything should have been, we entered everything directly from this bank statement into the system. Therefore, we should just be able to go in and check it off. It should be very easy to do. However, it's important to do because it really checks to see if we had a data entry error, which we may have. I might have some data entry errors that we totally did on purpose just to check them that we'll go in and fix if that's the case, and that's why we reconcile. Okay, so let's go back over to our account. Our ending balance is that 9630. That's our ending balance, back to the bank statement 9630 that we're going to enter here. We're not going to enter the service charge and the interest. I know we have one and I know we didn't enter it yet, but I'd rather enter that into the checking account because these two items can be confusing the way they show up on the bank statement. So I'm going to say continue. And then it'll create the bank statement. So we're going to have our deposits on the right. We're going to have our checks on the left. We're just going to tick and tie these out. And if we tick and tie everything out properly, this number will go down to 0. Once it does, then we have our end balance. To do this, we could say, since I entered this directly from the bank statement, I should be able to just say mark all, and if everything was perfect, that would go down to 0. It doesn't. Why? Because we didn't enter these two items down here, or at least that's going to be part of the problem that we have. It doesn't look like that's the full problem, so there might have been a data entry error that we're going to have to go in and figure out. So that's what we'll do now. So I'm going to go ahead and uncheck all this, and then we'll just go in and tick and tie this whole thing out. So and it has to match, and if it doesn't, then we're just going to fix it to the bank statement because the bank statement is where we're getting this information from. So it has to work. You have no worries that this won't work, because if it doesn't work, we'll just make it work by making the adjustments to the bank statement. So we're going to go to the bank statement, and I'll do the deposits first because they'll be easier. We're going to start off with the beginning balance and check that off. This is the only time we'll have to do this, and bank reconciliations in the future, the beginning balance won't be something we check off. But in the first one, because of the method we use, it is. So here's the 3210. I'm just going to highlight these as we go. 3210. Then we want the 3000. I'm going to go to 3000, the 48. We'll do two at a time. 3000, the 48. So it has to work. It has to tie out as long as each number is exactly the same. If it's not the same, we'll fix it. And then so here's the 48, highlighting, 3000, highlighting. Then we have the 9417. So there's the 9417, 9417, the 3 and the 7. And the 3 and the 7. 7 and the 3. Okay, so I'll highlight those. Found those. Deposits should be good. Now we're on the other side, and the draws are 10,807 total. 10,807 is what we're off by. So we should be good if we find a home for all the draws. So 150, 98 is what we're looking for. 150, 98. Going back over here, found the 150, found the 98. 65, 2,000. So there's a 65 and 2,000. Back over here, we found the 65. We found the 2,000. 250, 65. 250, 65. Notice I'm always going from the bank statement back to here. That's best practice to do that, other than going back and forth. It'll make your life easier if you just say I'm going from this statement to the books. And then we're going to go to 30 and 15. So 30 and 15. Notice I don't see the 30 here. I only see the 15. And that's because this Amazon was input improperly. We took it here and I took the 250 from American Red Cross instead of Amazon. So I could change that two ways. I could go to the check register. I could go to banking up top, use register, find Amazon, find that payment, and change it. It's even easier than that though, because I could just go to the register and here it is, double click on it and then change this. It should be 30. I'm just going to make it 30. Notice I have to change it here and down here. It has to be the same. It did it automatically for me right there. But these two numbers, of course, have to be the same. And then save and close. Okay, that's probably the problem we had. So there's the 30. And then the 15 is there. So now we found those two, and we've made the change that needed to be made that we did totally on purpose. And then the 900 and the 100. So the 900 and the 100. 900 and the 100. Then the 100 and the 125. 100 and 125. That's the credit card. Okay, so we've got those two. Something's a little bit out of order here, so I'm going to... Then the 200 and the 20. So we're going to say 220. And so I'm just going to highlight the whole thing now. 200 and the 20. And then the 48 and the 83. The 48 and the 83. Got those. Let's see if we can do three at a time now. 370, 23, and the 500. 370, 23, and the 500. Got those. The 195, the 37, the 34. 195, 37, 34. Got those. This is a tedious process, but it's not too bad. You can see it's fairly easy to do. We can do this pretty quickly, especially if we had two screens. That would be nice. 1,226 and 1,000. There's those three. And finally, we left that 346. I already saw it, so I'm going to cross it off now. There's the 346. Okay, so now we're out of balance by the 550, which of course are these two items we have not input yet. So I'm going to go back and input those items. And to do that, I'm going to go to the check register. So we got the withdrawals for 400. So I'm going to go to the checking account. And we're going to go to the draws. So that's at the end of the month. 131. We can call it draw. And we could call it draw here, but I'll just leave it blank for 400. And I don't know what that is. I just took money out. So obviously, anytime I don't want to have any idea what I spent money on, I can pay for it with cash, right? That's the problem with cash. You can't track it. So, we just paid the cash. So if we know what we paid the cash for and we kept receipts maybe, then we can have that. If not, we just paid it for something and we're going to put it into miscellaneous. So that's our miscellaneous, like our petty cash that we just spend on stuff. And we might want to track that. We might want to put something like cash expenses, expenditures, or something that would be cash withdrawals expense to break that out separately. If we spend a significant amount of cash and we want to track how much we're spending with just cash money. Or we can group it in, if it's smaller amount, into miscellaneous, just assuming it'd be petty kind of cash as compared to what we're spending on our cards and our electronic transfers and whatnot. So we'll say enter. And then the next one was the bank service charge. So bank service charge. So I'm going to say this is E, and we could put the bank. I'll just keep it blank, 150. And I'm going to put I usually like to track the bank service charge. So I'm going to say charge. I want to know how much the bank is charging me. Now again, it's usually small. You know, it's 150 right now. It seems kind of high, but usually the bank service charge is fairly small, and therefore putting it into miscellaneous would be fairly appropriate thing to do. But I still like tracking it, and you may want to track it for other things too, like the credit card might give you a credit card charge. You might group all those into bank service charges, or you might break them out. You might have a different credit card charge and a bank charge and your checking account charge. So I would typically put all those types of things into one account called bank service charges. And enter. New account. Setting that up as an expense. Now if we go back to the reconciliation, then we should be able to check those last two items off. 400 and 150 brings us down to 0. Notice if this thing is anything but 0, then you really shouldn't continue with it, because it should tie out exactly. And if it doesn't, you're like, well, it's only off by a couple dollars. That's not a big deal if that couple dollars was just one transaction, but the couple dollars could be a combination of multiple transactions that we didn't put into place. So it could be deposits and checks that we missed, and therefore that couple dollars is large. So in other words, if we're not completely 100% reconciled, any difference basically kind of removes a huge component of what reconciliation does for us. And if we get it down to 0, which is fairly easy to do considering we entered it directly from the bank statement, then we have a lot more assurance that this thing is done properly. So we'll keep it at that, and we'll just say reconcile, and we'll get our reconciliation reports again, display those reports. Again, they don't tell us a whole lot, because all they tell us is that we entered the data directly from the bank statement correctly. There's not going to be any outstanding checks or deposits because we entered them directly from the bank statement. So the reconciliation doesn't have the same functionality as it does with a full service bookkeeping process, because we're on a cash basis system here, but it tells us that we are tied out, that what we entered in the system is exactly what is on the bank statement. And here's the detail, which basically should just match up to the bank statement activities. What was deposits and what were the outflows, inflows, and outflows. For more accounting information and accounting courses, visit our website at accountinginstruction.info.